morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to talk about some new cards that are coming around in Hong Kong and Taiwan. A couple of new decks. They are Charizard and Sizzle EX Tactics decks. Now, these should look a little bit familiar. They're going to look a little bit familiar, and then they're going to look a little bit weird. Because if we have a look at the Charizard deck for a minute, you go, hang on a second, I've seen that somewhere before. Yes, you have. It is the same as the Battle Master deck over in Japan. That was a thing that happened, that released a little while ago. I've got it in my house. I bought one of these. It's got an alternate art Charizard. It doesn't even have to be a Charizard, right? It's got an alternate art EX. I am there. You give me an alternate EX in any deck, I'ma go buy it. So I bought this one, and it was kind of lovely. A Lizardon EX Battle Master deck. Cool. And this is basically the same. It's the same, at least it looks to be, the same kind of deck there. It's got the same alternate art Charizard. Seems to serve the same kind of purpose. But the other one in Japan was a Chen Pao deck. This is a Sizzle deck. And I don't know what to do with this information. They seem to be the same basic products. They seem to serve the same purpose. We're going to get into deck lists in a minute and show you that they're really kind of cool. Why Sizzle instead of Chen Pao? Because Charizard and Chen Pao are both top decks at the moment. Now, I know we could argue that in the NAIC format that they both took a little bit of a dip, but they were both running around at NAIC. They both represented. They both had players doing well. They were both decent decks, and they have been much better in the past than they are right now. Sizzle EX, though? No, mate, that card's garbage. And I don't want to be rude. It's not complete garbage. It's fine. For those of you that may have forgotten, it came around in Temporal Forces, and 2 energy, 70 during your opponent's next turn, it takes 50 less from attacks, or 2 metal energy, 120 for each metal energy discarded from this Pokemon, up to a maximum of 2. It's that card. It's blatantly that card. It's the same card with the same attacks and all of that, the same one from Temporal Forces, but with alternate art, which I don't understand. Because firstly, it makes no real sense to do Sizzle here. I don't know why they would do Sizzle when the whole point is, hey, we're doing good playable decks. Even with that in mind, we literally have a Chen Pao deck that somebody's already made. So now not only do we have a new Sizzle deck, which doesn't really make a huge amount of sense, but now we don't have this Chen Pao deck. Why? Don't know. Wish I could give you a better explanation than that. I don't know. One of the really cool things about these decks, and I do like this, for some reason they've got their stats on the front of the deck. So they've actually gone and basically made it so that you can see what the decks are best at and worst at, and it's a little bit weird, honestly, but I kind of love that they're doing it. If we take the Charizard deck for a moment, now I'm having to use Google Translate here, my Chinese is not great. It is best at strength. It's not so good at speed or defense. From the top, going clockwise around, we got strength, defense, balance, skill, and speed. So it's a deck that really is best at strength, apparently. Whereas Sizzle here, it's clearly a defense deck. That is the main one of it. Apparently no skill for Sizzle here, which is a little bit weird, but I kind of love it. I do think this is kind of nice. And the thing is, if we have a look at the Charizard deck, it is basically the same as the deck was over in Japan. Like, the deck is released in Japan. We know the card list for that deck, and this is exactly what we're expecting. So, the other Pokemon there, we got ourselves Entei, we got Moltres, and we've got Radiant Charizard. I'm not going to make you go look this up yourself. I'm going to tell you, all of those cards were in the deck. And it's got Bidoof and Bibarel, both of which were in the deck. What's weird is the Charizard deck also had Arceus in. And Arceus seems to not be in this deck. And it's clearly the same kind of deck. I'm going to show you a bunch of trainer cards in a minute. They're all basically the same as well. It's clearly that deck translated and moved over into simplified Chinese, right? But for some reason, they've taken Arceus out, and I don't really know why. I wish I could give you a good explanation here. Lots of things about the decisions made here are weird, frankly. Many things about this are weird. Sorry about that. And then in terms of the item cards, etc., we've got ourselves Super Rod, Buddy Buddy Poffin, Nest Ball, and Ultra Ball, which is actually better than the Japanese deck. Japanese deck didn't have Buddy Buddy Poffin, though it did have both of the balls and it did have Super Rod. You then get Rare Candy, Pokegear 3.0, and Switch. Japanese deck did have Rare Candy, did have Switch, did not have Pokegear. And then we've also got ourselves a couple of tools as well, your Defiance Band and your TM Evolution, which do actually work really nicely with Charizard, so it's hard to be too upset about those being included, neither of which, incidentally, were in the Japanese deck. So it's kind of like the Japanese deck, and it's got the same alternate art Charizard, and it seems to be the same kind of product, and it's largely the same deck list, but it's not exactly the same, and they've taken Arceus out. That's the main thing they've done here, is they've taken Arceus out. Oh, I should say there's a bunch of supporters in there as well. They are good supporters. We've got ourselves Iono, we've got ourselves Professor's Research, we've got ourselves Arven, and we got ourselves Boss's Orders. These are 4 phenomenal supporters. They are supporters that you would expect to see in basically every deck. Well, not every deck, but a lot of decks. Arven, great. Professor's Research, great. Iono, great. Gets this, great. Again, the whole point of a product like this isn't necessarily, oh, this is going to be the perfect out-of-the-box deck. This is going to win you tournaments. This is a good, competent deck, but also we're actually filling this box full of playable cards, so don't worry, if you want to tweak or use these cards for other decks or whatever, you're going to be able to, and that's going to be awesome. As for the rest of the Sizzle deck, it's actually, again, it's pretty good. Like, if you were going to play Sizzle, this would help you out nicely. We've got the Metang there, the one with Metal Maker that accelerates metal energy, lets you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach all your metal energy you find there around the board, which is quite nice. And it's then also got a bunch of other Pokemon coming in here. We've got your Heatran, your Zacian, and your Zamazenta V. So there is another Pokemon V here. Again, it's weird that there's no Radiant Pokemon. And I don't understand this. In Japan, both of those decks had Radiant Pokemon. The Chen Pao deck had Greninja. Here, we've still got a Radiant Pokemon with Charizard, but we don't have a Radiant Pokemon here. And sure, we have Zamazenta V, but then there was Entei V in the other deck, so I don't really get it. It just seems like the Sizzle deck. Bearing in mind, Charizard is more popular and more playable. To give Charizard a Radiant Pokemon and not Sizzle just honestly seems mean. It is a Zamazenta V that came around in Brilliant Stars. Lets you discard your hand and draw 5 cards at the expense of ending your turn. And then free energy, 120 plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. It's a decent enough card, don't get me wrong, but it's not really seen a much play, and it's been out for long enough that if it was going to see play, it frankly would be seeing play. I don't know, there's so much about this which is just weird to me, honestly. And then we got a whole bunch of trainer cards as well, and it's a lot of what we would expect. So we got Super Odd, Buddy Buddy Poffin, and Nest Ball, which again are cards that we would probably be playing. And then Ultra Ball and Switch, which make perfect sense. And then you've got the tool that reduces damage done to stage 1s by 30. And then the stadium that reduces damage done to metal Pokemon by 30. Remember, on the front of the deck, it told us this was the deck that was good at defense. And all it's doing is just backing that up. There's a lot here that makes perfect sense and is kind of cool. It's just super, super weird to me, the way they've gone about doing it. And then in terms of supporters, it's another really nice mix. Very similar here. We've still got Iono, we've still got Professor's Research, we've still got Boss's Orders, but we've added in Cynthia instead of Arven, which is basically the designer's way of telling us, look, it's not the same deck, so we've made a little bit of a change. And I appreciate that. I think these decks are cool. I love these things. Remember, we got League Battle decks over here, and I have regularly described League Battle decks as among the best products that we've had, like, ever. I love League Battle decks. They're awesome. So other territories getting this, brilliant. Love it. There's just so many things about this that I find a little bit weird, but I've told you all of that now. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about Chen Pao being switched for Sizzle. Remember, this Sizzle is, as it stands, an exclusive print. We've not seen this anywhere before. As it stands right now, the only place where this print exists is in Hong Kong and Taiwan with these decks. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Uriel Rojas, who's been a supporter of ours for a little while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.